The screens glowed with restless energy, flashing numbers and movements that never seemed to stop. Every second brought a new rise or fall, and people across the world held their breath as if fortune itself could be captured in a moment. Yet beneath all the noise, a quiet truth waited. Real success grows slowly, like light at dawn, not like fire in the night. Daniel sat in his small apartment in Chicago, staring at his laptop. The financial charts danced before him, rising and falling without mercy. He had spent months chasing quick profits, believing that speed meant intelligence. He studied graphs, watched trends, followed online discussions, everything that promised instant reward. And for a while, it seemed to work. But every time his earnings grew fast, they disappeared even faster. He began realizing that his struggle wasn't against the market. It was against himself. The more he rushed, the more mistakes he made. The more he tried to control outcomes, the more anxious he became. His energy, his focus, even his peace were slipping away, one impulsive decision at a time. That night, after another disappointing loss, Daniel sat in silence. The room was dim, except for the blue light from his laptop screen. He remembered his late grandfather's words. Wealth grows like a tree, not like lightning. Water it, don't chase it. The memory hit deep. His grandfather had run a humble carpentry shop for 40 years. He never hurried his work, never compromised on quality, and never borrowed beyond what he could manage. When others raced to expand fast, he focused on building steady relationships and honest craftsmanship. Even when profits were slow, peace was constant. His business lasted long after others collapsed because it was built on patience, not pressure. Daniel closed his laptop and walked outside into the night. The city lights shimmered on wet streets, reflecting in puddles like tiny stars. He breathed in the cool air and thought, maybe the problem isn't the market. Maybe the problem is me expecting it to reward impatience. He decided to start again, this time with clarity. Instead of chasing short-term moves, he began studying the value behind businesses, their products, their people, their purpose. He wanted to understand what made something genuinely strong, not what simply looked profitable for a day. He also started keeping a personal journal. Each time he felt tempted to act out of fear or greed, he wrote about it. Over time, he noticed a pattern. Every poor decision was born from impatience. Every wise one came from calm. That realization became the turning point of his life. He made small, deliberate changes. He set a clear financial plan, saved regularly, and avoided unnecessary risks. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful. He began to sleep better, think clearer, and feel lighter. Slowly, he understood that patience isn't passive. It's powerful. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing at the right time. Months passed, and the noise that once controlled him began to fade. The flashing numbers no longer dictated his emotions. He could finally look at them with balance, not obsession. What once felt like chaos now felt like rhythm. Ups and downs that were simply part of growth. Daniel noticed something else, too. As he became more patient with money, he became more patient with life. He stopped comparing his progress to others. He learned to appreciate small victories, a steady income, a calm mind, a sense of direction. He understood that in both finance and life, impatience leads to exhaustion. It pushes people to chase illusions, faster results, bigger numbers, louder recognition. But patience leads to understanding. It allows ideas, investments, and dreams to mature at their natural pace. One evening, while reading his journal, Daniel came across an old note. Success without peace isn't success. He smiled, realizing how true it was. He remembered the times he had earned quickly, but felt empty, and the times he had earned slowly, but felt proud. The difference wasn't in the amount. It was in the journey. He began talking to friends who were also struggling with financial stress. Some were overwhelmed by social media, constantly comparing their lives to others' highlight reels. Daniel told them gently, don't measure your worth by speed. Measure it by strength. Over the next few months, he shared what he learned. That patience doesn't mean waiting forever. It means trusting the process. That peace doesn't come from control. It comes from discipline. And that wealth without wisdom is just noise. His circle of friends started changing their own habits, planning expenses, avoiding unnecessary borrowing, and focusing on long-term goals. They realized that slow progress built something faster results never could. Confidence. Daniel often thought of his grandfather's shop, the smell of wood, the sound of slow and steady work. He saw the same principle applying to every part of life. When you rush, things break. When you allow time to shape them, they endure. By the end of that year, Daniel's life looked simple but strong. His savings had grown, his stress had faded, and his focus had sharpened. He wasn't chasing numbers anymore. He was building a foundation. He learned that patience is not just a financial virtue, it's a life skill. It teaches humility, endurance, and trust. It reminds us that everything meaningful, from relationships to prosperity, takes time to grow. As he closed his journal one quiet night, Daniel wrote a single line at the bottom of the page. The fastest path to peace is the slow road of patience. And for the first time in years, he smiled. Not because he had gained more, but because he had finally understood enough. Zaid stood at the window of his small apartment overlooking the city lights, their reflections scattered across the wet glass. Each one seemed to blink like a thought that never finished. Months had passed since he last felt certainty. The noise of constant financial updates had quieted into something else, a kind of background hum that reminded him of how deeply the world had tied success to speed. He once believed that patience was something people spoke of when they had no opportunities left. Now, he began to see it as the foundation of every lasting achievement. He spent his evenings reading stories of entrepreneurs who had built their work step by step, never compromising integrity for acceleration. The ones who endured the long path didn't just gain wealth, they earned wisdom. He noticed a pattern. Every person who grew something meaningful faced a moment when they could have rushed for easy gain, but chose restraint instead. That pause, that deliberate act of waiting, became their greatest advantage. Zaid remembered his earlier days, those mornings filled with restless energy, checking market movements before sunrise. He used to believe the world would forget him if he wasn't always moving faster than everyone else. But the truth came quietly, through loss. The fast decisions he once called smart were really built on fear. The fear of missing out, of being left behind, of watching others rise while he stood still. He began to realize that true financial discipline is not about constant action. It's about understanding the rhythm of growth. Just as a seed doesn't bloom because you pull its stem, wealth doesn't expand through restless hands. Patience isn't the absence of effort. It's the guidance that gives effort meaning. Each morning, he began his day differently. Instead of staring at financial screens, he opened a notebook and wrote down his goals. Not for the week, not even for the month, but for the next 10 years. The exercise slowed him down, forced him to see that meaningful growth can't be rushed. When he planned with long-term vision, short-term noise lost its power. One evening, he met an old acquaintance named Omar, who had once shared Zaid's obsession with quick profit. Omar's life had taken a different turn. Endless stress, constant comparison, and a growing distance from the values they once shared. When Zaid spoke about his new approach, slower, more deliberate, more peaceful, Omar laughed at first. "You're wasting time," he said. "The world moves fast." Zaid smiled gently. "Maybe, but I've learned that peace is worth more than speed." That night, Zaid thought deeply about that conversation. It reminded him how easy it is to confuse activity with progress. People often believe that movement means growth, but not all movement takes you forward. Some only exhaust your energy before you even reach your real path. As the weeks passed, Zaid began seeing results, not in numbers, but in clarity. His decisions improved. He no longer reacted to every shift. When others panicked over a sudden drop, he stayed still, knowing that storms pass and value often returns stronger. This composure became his quiet advantage. People began to notice his calmness and sought his perspective. What he once chased through competition, he now gained through composure. He began documenting his reflections on patience, how it reshapes not just financial habits, but life itself. He wrote that patience is not passive, it's active endurance, guided by understanding. It's the balance between trust and effort. In finance, that means making choices based on principle, not pressure. He shared these thoughts with a small online group, expecting little response. But to his surprise, people connected deeply with them. Many admitted they too had lost peace chasing rapid success. Zaid's story gave them permission to slow down, to rebuild their financial mindset with steadiness and sincerity. Soon, his message began spreading quietly. Not because it was loud, but because it was true. People were tired of being told that constant urgency was the only way to live. His words offered something rare, reassurance that lasting prosperity doesn't come from haste, but from harmony between time and action. One day, an unexpected opportunity arrived. A community project was being formed to support small entrepreneurs who lacked access to guidance and structure. Zaid was invited to help design its financial education framework. He accepted, not because it promised quick gain, but because it aligned with what he had learned. That real wealth grows when knowledge is shared, not hoarded. He worked with dedication, ensuring that every principle taught was rooted in transparency, honesty, and steady progress. When the project finally launched, it drew wide attention. People appreciated how it encouraged ethics alongside ambition. For Zaid, it was a sign. Patience had brought him not only peace, but purpose. Standing again by his window, watching the city breathe below, he understood something he had missed for years. Every person's financial journey is like a long walk through changing weather. Some days will bring sunshine, others rain. You cannot control the climate, but you can control how you walk. The one who walks with patience arrives further, even if slower. He closed his notebook, no longer feeling the pressure of proving his worth. His wealth was not measured in immediate returns, but in understanding, self-control, and trust in steady effort. The impatient world outside still rushed, headlines flashing, voices racing. But Zaid no longer felt drawn to it. Years later, when asked what the greatest lesson of his life had been, Zaid smiled and said, "That patience isn't just a virtue, it's a strategy. It guards your peace while guiding your growth. And in a world chasing everything, it gives you the rarest wealth of all, contentment." The room fell silent after his words, not because they were grand, but because they were true. Everyone in that room had felt the pressure of modern life, the constant reminders that faster is better, that slowing down means failure. But hearing Zaid speak, they understood something powerful. Success that costs your peace is no success at all. And so, his story became a quiet reminder that in the restless rhythm of financial pursuit, patience is the art of breathing between decisions, the space where wisdom grows and where wealth finds its most honest form.